I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to, well, I can say the front lines in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. Today we are going to have a guest. He's online here through Skype on my handheld, not on my desktop. So we're going to manage. Hopefully the audio works out to be well enough so everybody hears. We have here Sir Timothy Thrapp from Witts Ministries, and Witts Ministries was on with us. It was probably over a year ago with Tank, and we were discussing Tesla's technologies. And since that time, I had come up with this idea or theory of my own by connecting dots that this plan to save the world that we've been following with the that unspeakable letter, the 17th letter of the of the alphabets, because we can't see that letter for some reason. That movement with the Anons was outlining a plan to save the world, right? Led by the U.S. military, and we've been, tracking it ever since. But I kind of theorized that this plan went back to Tesla, and the reason I thought that was because Donald Trump's uncle, John Trump, received or was in charge, put in charge by the U.S. military for all of the, or the U.S. government, but for all of Tesla's inventions, and he went ahead and I think set up a few companies related to those technologies and was in development. And Donald Trump was very close to his uncle. And so I started just connecting the dots, thinking that Tesla himself was, perplexed with all of these Illuminonkeys from back then. The American industrialists, those that had the money, were not doing things for the benefit of the people. So I thought, well, I think he was smart enough to put together a plan. And Witts Ministries is a ministry that was formed by Tesla. So anyway, that's my introduction. I'm going to say hello to Sir Timothy Thrapp. Hello, Tim.
Hello, brother Dan. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing very well. And yes.
If you'd like me to, I'll clarify a little more about World Improvement Through the Spirit Ministries, which you're referring to as Witts Ministries.
Yes, I would like for you to do your own introduction after mine.
Sure.
Go ahead.
We've been around for about 200 years. Tesla was the fourth spokesman. The first one was Michael Faraday. And we've had other notable people like John Keeley was part of the ministry, one of our elders for a number of years. Other notable people, Ron Brandt was the spokesman before me. He was the sixth spokesman, and I'm the seventh. Again, Michael Faraday was the first, Tesla was the fourth. And so there's a lot of interesting people who were involved in the ministry, and great scientists, great inventors, and we still have all that technology. We are doing deals with governments. We have been doing deals with governments in the past, and there are still deals on the table on different things. So you were saying how the military may be, the United States military may be part of bringing good technologies to the world. Yes, they're definitely. The Navy is one of the groups that that Trump is using. Apparently this was a plan put in place by Tesla and the elders at that time, back about over 100 years ago, so 100, maybe 120 years ago, 110 years ago, when they saw they were being blocked by...
we call them Illuminonkeys, or deep state of the time.
Oh, yeah, maybe I shouldn't name names. Like JP
well, names are okay, but... Yeah, we avoid that. We avoid that Illuminonky term, the other Illuma something or other. And now, obviously, the 17th letter of the alphabet is forbidden or forbidden.
Names will be changed to protect the innocent here. Yeah, you don't want to say it. Now, on our own program, we have said these things, but we don't publish on YouTube. We do have technology videos, but as far as our regular program every week, Witts.ws, you can look at the archives. We have 10 years worth of programs, or I think 11 years worth of programs now, we do talk about those words, the whatever letter of the alphabet and the donkeys. We talk about those all the time and use the words, but we've not been having trouble from where we post, but we don't post we realized early on.
The reason is just because of the shadow banning that goes on. They literally, if you say these things, they basically put a wall around it for the people to pass it on. Now people can share it, right, and that can get beyond those algorithms. So please do share this video. Like this video and share this video. That helps get past these blocks. But anyway, we just try to make it a little easier for us to make it out there. It also draws attention to why are we having to deal with this kind of censorship? Why is it there? And just pointing it out. So us doing these acrobatics, word acrobatics, is really helping people to be aware of the shadow banning that's going on.
Right. Yeah. The freedom of speech is guaranteed in the United States Constitution, and of course many other constitutions around the world. But in reality, nowadays you're dealing with these big corporations that don't respect the Constitution. In my opinion, they can make up their own rules as they go along. So anyway, the good news is there is a kingdom of light, or a kingdom that fights against the kingdom of darkness, and it's a challenge. But I do believe the light is prevailing in many ways. Things will get better. They will get worse, depending on where you are. But in the long run, 7-10 years from now, I think it'll be a pretty nice world. I think the world will emerge as a beautiful place. And I was just in conversation with another brother who believes he's been sent backwards in time from the future, which maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, and who knows? But it's interesting.
I don't doubt that there is time travel. I think that according to the theory I was proposing, that this is Tesla's plan. I think that his matter transporter also could transport through time. And I think that we may even see, there's a very strange resemblance between Julian Assange and John Trump. If you put their pictures side by side, it's either his son, right, John Trump's son, or it's John Trump. So that would make it a very interesting type of time travel that has taken place.
I have built and repaired wormhole generators, which are one type of matter transfer type machine. You can go to anywhere in the universe. I have not seen backwards time travel conclusively. I've seen some evidence indicate that using these type of machines, but I definitely can travel forward in time, and it's probable you can travel backwards in time using this type of technology. But you can definitely travel instantly within a second or two from anywhere in the universe to anywhere in the universe, and that's just phenomenal, honestly. So not just from one side of the Earth to the other side of the Earth, or from the Earth to the Moon. You can literally go in a few seconds. You can literally go to anywhere in the universe, basically. So it does take energy, but the energy is drawn from the quantum fields, which is pretty much unlimited. What we call quantum fields. Other people have different terminologies for it, the direct sea and all this. But whatever you want to call it, there is a huge amount of energy. Some people call it ether energy.
Right. That's my terminology in the past. I had always used ether when I was talking about it early on in my young engineering days. And I was talking, I would call it the ether, because that's what Maxwell called it. I'd gone into a big study on Maxwell's equations. and
Yeah.
because I know when I was being educated about how to be an engineer, electronic engineer, and we were, working with the very basic formulas, and you'd get, an answer that was good, but how you got that answer was, you weren't showing your work, right? So, and what was behind it, and they had this theory of how things worked based upon the ether and how things flowed, and so. I was curious about that back then.
Yeah, it's very fascinating subject is the ether and how the energy is appears to be absent, but it's not. It's just neutral. Basically, positive particles often go in orbit around negative particles, and so from our point of view, the macroscopic point of view or our point of view, it appears to be nothing there, but there is quite a bit of energy in every cubic foot of space. Well more than we could ever imagine using, and if you used it up, you would immediately have a bunch more coming in. So there's huge amounts of energy available. These technologies are being released as we speak, quietly, but not yet to the people, and that's what we're working toward, is getting it into the hands of the people. And if it's okay with you, I'll mention the Witts coin. Is that okay with you?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about the Witts coin.
Yeah, we have a plan, and I know you're doing a lot of coins already, different kinds of coins. But we have a plan, and Dan is putting his wisdom to work there to help us implement that plan. But this plan will allow not just a coin; it's an alternative to the mark of the beast. And hopefully that's not one of the terms I'm not supposed to say. But the currency systems of this world, most of them are designed to take advantage of the people, and we want to turn that around and give all the benefits and the profits back to the people in the Witts coin. And Witts is, of course, short for World Improvement through the Spirit Ministries, and Witts is, Witts Ministries, if you want to say it that way. And again, we were founded by Michael Faraday, who also was a minister, scientist, engineer, and pretty much all of our elders are minister, scientists, engineers. Minister in the term of servant. The term minister means servant. It means somebody helping others. And that's what it means. It does not mean somebody with a fancy suit and $1 billion car, $1 million airplane, whatever. $1 million airplane, $1 million car, whatever. And that's taking advantage of people every which way they go. Those kind of people are false ministers, in my opinion. They're not really serving anybody except themselves. Most of them. There may be some that are good people, and I don't like to talk bad about anybody, but I just want to make it clear that there are sincere ministers that are doing humanitarian work, such as Witts Ministries, World Improvement through the Spirit Ministries, which Tesla was one of us. And I've been honored in multiple countries, including the title Sir. That's an honor from the country of France for doing humanitarian work. And in the country of France, we helped clean up the Rhine River back. It was extremely polluted back in the 90s, and one of our systems was put in. Actually, multiple of our systems were put into the river and totally cleaned it up in a couple weeks' time. Actually, within days, you can notice a huge difference. And a bunch of us were invited to France to get honored, and part of the honors were knighthood. I was one of three. There were three of us from the ministry. We're all invited. All our elders were invited. There were 12 of us at that time, and I was, me and two other brothers went. We all three got knighted. So it was nice to meet the royal family and see how they think and get to know them. And I would say that particular family is good people. There are royal families that I don't trust, but I'd say that particular family, they're good people. But anyway, that's a little bit of the history of who we are, and that should help people understand us better. Is it okay to give out the website, Brother Dan?
Sure. Yeah. Actually, I can actually show it while you're talking. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. It's the website is very simple. URL WITTS.WS. So Witts, World Improvement through the Spirit Ministries. That's basically just WITTS.WS. .ws. WS is actually stands for Western Samoa, but you can also think of it like website, and it's easy for people to remember that way. And we do offer 77 gifts on the Legacy Gifts page now, and actually every page is multiple free gifts. Honestly, most of it's free. 99.99% of all our classes are totally free, and every page is a free class, every video is a free class, and multiple classes on every video. And people that donate are welcome to go to the Legacy Gifts page if you want personalized face-to-face classes. That's what that one page is for. That one page has minimum donations, but everything else, thousands, really tens of thousands of free classes on the website. And that's what we're all about, is helping humanity move to a better place, free energy, clean energy, anti-gravity, teleportation, all that can improve, has the potential to prove to be very beneficial. Better growing systems. We've covered that. Better farming systems. Plants can be grown with some of our systems. Plants can be grown in a week's time. You can have plants that are ready to eat from seeds in a week's time, ready to eat. And so that's another huge direction to go. And water from the air, another huge direction to go. And water from the quantum is another huge direction to go. And both of these types of water are very clean, very pure. Water from the air is very healthy for your plants. A lot of interesting stuff for sure. And everybody's welcome. It's a free resource. Everybody's welcome to.
Yeah. So I'll just let me go ahead and just repeat that again. So it's WITTS.WS.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I do apologize. It's mostly my fault as far as if you're not hearing me good. My computer wouldn't load Zoom, which was what we were going to try. For some reason, it just kept loading, and so it's anyway, we'll figure it out. Skype does work good, but it's not always clear on the way we're doing it here.
Right. Yeah, we're just going from one device to another. So anyway, but I think you're sounding fine. I think the audio level is fine. I just wanted to make sure that I repeated it just in case.
So it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
So I'd like to.
Any other subject you'd like to go?
Yeah. One of the other interesting things that has been coming about is my conversations with Tui from Fiji. Fiji has been, without any money from the World Bank and so on, and loans for probably over a year and a half that I know. So they received a pittance from China as a loan, and they're not paying their civil servants, they're not paying their teachers, they're not paying anyone, and they're just moving at as though they're going to get money from somewhere, and their government the civil government is in essence collapsing. From not being able to pay anyone. The people, are unique in the world because, over 100 years ago, they understood maritime law, and they put their people on the land. And so when there's a new birth, a new human being brought into the world, they're put on the land in the book of the land. And so they've been also in their government set up where the military is the chiefs, and there's 72 chiefs, and they're in charge of the military. So it's an interesting thing that's going on there right now, as they're looking to move out of this of this system that the world is in, right? And or at least put it in perspective. I told them to put it back on the ocean. Get them off the land and put them on a boat at the harbor. But the idea though is, how do you create a new economy? How do you build something when you want to be on the land, you want everything to be about life and abundance, but the system is about death and is parasitic to everybody and rule. So how do you transition? So we had talked about using cryptocurrency as that method of doing that. And so when I was designing the gold grain coin, when I first, before I was speaking with Sir Tim, this is a while ago now, about Witts, making a Witts coin and how to do that, how to put the value of, say, Tesla technology behind the coin. How do you do that, right? So that there's value behind it instead of making a vapor coin. And so, so my conversations with TUI are along the lines of how do you make a different type of system, one that is honoring the people, and the people have the benefit of using the system, as opposed to the people that are, at the top of a pyramid structure, yes, like a multi-level marketing Ponzi scheme. It all gets sucked up to the top. So,
ours is totally opposite that, and that's the right way to do it is turn that upside down to where the people are the ones getting all the benefits. We already have trillions in technologies, trillions of dollars value. Let's say whether we want to call it dollars or yuan or whatever, trillions in value in technologies, trillions, but probably more than that, probably millions times trillions in that range. And so all this would be monetized. And Fiji might be a great country to start with. You could ask them if, I'm sure you probably already have. But anyway, feel free to talk.
I talked with, after we spoke yesterday, I talked with Tui. And I did invite Tui to come on today. He did say that he was to be very busy. I called him before we started. He wasn't able to take the call. So I think that we can reschedule and have another conversation about this with TUI. There are some things that are happening now. TUI's been helping to organize the people there, and they were bringing all of the different villages together and all the people, and having them be aware. And he was explaining to them how they are on the land, and that because a lot of them still didn't know. It's been a while since that happened, and so there is definitely going to be something happening in Fiji very soon to make this thing move forward. So,
very, very interesting concept. Is it okay? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, one concept regarding money is to help the money get distributed to the people is make sure that 100% of, and I know there's a lot of, different disagreements, but I think if your country is involved in it, we have countries involved in doing it this way, it'll bless everybody. Basically, let's say a certain technology is worth $10 billion, and again, we have many technologies, and many of them are worth trillions. But anyway, let's just for a round number, $10 billion. That money, that $10 billion, is put into the monetary system, and each person that signs up, they don't have to pay anything. They get money to sign up. They get Witts coin to sign up, and then the more they spend, the more they get back each month. So literally, they can make money if they can actually make a profit, make a living, simply by making wise decisions and so on. It depends. Producers should get paid the most. People that are farmers, people that are actually producing something useful. Manufacturers, producers is producing something useful. If they're producing weapons, in my opinion, they should not get paid anything special. But if they're producing, food or goods that people need to live comfortably, then all those people should get paid extra. And so this should be the right model, in my opinion. It's an upside down model from what it is, but the Bible talks talks about a backwards kingdom, and it's really backwards from this old kingdom. The king, when they were looking at Christians multiplying in the beginning of Christianity, they were afraid that the world was being turned upside down, and really that's what it needs. It needs to be turned upside down because the super rich at the top are plenty rich, and that needs to be turned back around where people get blessed just because they're doing business and quit getting penalized because they're doing business. And there's no reason everybody can't have plenty, because even if we used up all of our technologies, which again are thousands of different technologies, from everything you can imagine, but there's be plenty of people coming along with new technologies, and every one of them could be implemented into the system in a very fair and honest and blessing type way. Whereas the system now, people create a great invention, and most of them can never get it mass produced.
So Tim, let me just add something, because this kind of touches on something that I had covered with Tui many times. So the audience has heard this before, but Tui was giving a kind of an explanation of how things are in Fiji with the people. So if because the Fiji people are not business minded, right? So they'll be running their own little general store, and a family member will come in, and they'll just take stuff off the shelf and walk out the door, right? And the business owner, it's family. He just just lets it happen, So it's kind of the natural thing. So, and I was talking with him about reversing the flow of the system. You actually literally have people come into the store, and they get paid to come into the store by the store owner. So that would be one way of reversing the flow, is actually just make it reverse all the way, so that this is a flow that's happening where the source is basically coming from the government that's printing the money, right? And then it flows down to the manufacturers, right? And they get paid because they went ahead and they, instead of being charged a tax, the government pays them to produce the items, right? And because they're being productive and they're creating things, I call it a regulator that basically generates say productivity points, for a lack of a better terminology right now. But the amount of productivity goes also down to the customer that walks into the store to take the things off the shelf. The flow of money goes to, what if they get paid to actually shop there? So the owner of the store pays people to come into the store and buy things.
But everything is free for the consumer?
Well, we're reversing the flow. So you have to say someone is getting paid, right? So the store owner also got paid, but it's coming the other way. Let's say
by who's ever in charge of the money. Let's say it that way, government or whatever.
Yeah, the government ultimately is creating the money anyway.
And the shopper, the guy getting merchandise from the store, he's getting everything for nothing, or what's the deal there?
Well, is it for nothing, or because he's valued? His value is represented by this. So, ultimately, he's getting paid. Now, in this system that I just described, right? What is he getting paid with? Well, maybe he's getting paid with productivity points, and then he goes and he redeems those back to the government along with his productivity points, and he's then paid by the government as well. So it's a rethinking.
So there's no motivation for anybody to grow. Is there any motivation then for anybody to earn a living?
Well, there's two systems. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Now we're getting into the details, and it's just more of an exercise of how to make this happen. But let's say that there's two systems. Let's say that both systems, the existing system now, where you're paying for things, is happening. But there's another overlaying system that's paying you the opposite, right? It's actually because you went in it and did something, you earned your productivity points. let's say you're still paying cash out the door for them, right? When you talk about how to actually make it work in today's system, there's a lot of times you go in and you go to a restaurant, right? And you get your stamp because you came there, and you get 10 stamps, you get a free, sandwich or whatever, right? This is a separate system that's an overlay of the existing system. So what if you had another overlay, but this is, kind of your productivity points, and that those productivity points can be redeemed to the government to give you money. Now, you could fold this into what people are considering right now and asking for across the world as a universal basic income, right? I'm not in favor of that, because I think that's exactly what you get in the existing system. Is if you give people money, they won't do anything, right? But if you start recognizing the value in people for what they do, right? So if even texting, walking into a store and shopping, if you recognize the value to the system is that the people are the value, and their activities are the value, but the people own those. It's their property. It's their ownership of those things that is important. So if you recognize that and you reward that as the overlaying system and giving those productivity points, which they can then redeem, and ultimately, we don't really need to count breathing as an activity, but everything else that someone does in interaction could be counted as productivity, and that productivity could then be rewarded again to the government. Now, as a regulator to the government, you don't want them to ultimately just print all the money they want, right? It has to be conditioned upon, I think, two things: productivity and asset. So the asset being of something of value. There could be long-term assets, such as gold. There could be short-term assets, such as things that were manufactured, what we used to call durable goods, like washing machines, automobiles. And so they have a lifespan of use, which could be counted towards the amount that the government is allowed to print. So anyway, I was getting down into the nitty gritty. We can get into some details. Ultimately, it's as simple as getting that stamp on your stamp card, to get your reward. It's the same kind of concept. But you'd be running both systems simultaneously. So because this existing system, you just can't turn it off, right? It's what people know. It's how things work. So you let it run. But eventually that becomes less important over time, all right? And then everybody's more, it's what becomes more important is the activities that people do. And if those activities are valued, I have the feeling no one's going to not do anything. Right, because that won't be valued as much, right?
Yeah, if the activities have a value, then people will do them.
Well, getting into what activities are more valuable, ultimately that gets into a deeper conversation because, again, is texting valuable? You're just chatting with a friend or by text. Is there value in it? I mean, I text with you. Is there value in our texting? Who's to judge? What's the merits? When you start getting this meritocracy type of concept, then you get into a problem of who's determining what has merit. So you have to recognize, maybe it's an act of time, the amount of time. It might also be a combination of time and other people in this social environment that we're constructing, the social media experience. That there may be more things that come together because more people are in agreement with that, and so that increases the value of a certain type of information. So, like for example, let's say all of our conversation inside a chat room enticed 100 people one day to read through it, right, and make comments. but the next day it was 1,000 people, and the next day it was 10,000, and the next day it was 100,000. So is there more value in that? You could count that towards there being more value, and everyone shares in that value because they contributed in making comments or giving a thumbs up. Anyway, so we can start counting. We can get into nitty-gritties and do some thought experiments on how to make a system like this work. But the simplicity of something could be done where there is a reversal of another system that is basically placed on top of the existing system in which money is flowing out to. You could say there's two kinds of coin in the realm. For example, both have value. And you can say they're one for one, but one is a debt-based note and the other is an asset-backed currency. So,
Asset is definitely the future, and we'll see how it goes. The debt-based notes, are definitely going to be going away. But there's a lot of interesting concepts. Again, we want to keep ours as simple as possible and make it for sure asset, basically, like it's similar to the way founder shares are now, except you make them easily tradable, easily used like money. A founder share is where you actually own a percentage of the company, whereas a regular share, you're just speculating that the company's going to make profit and the value of their stock is going to go up. It's similar to Bitcoin. You're speculating that it's going to go up on value, which you probably will because it is an alternative to the currencies that are out there now. But gold and silver definitely will because these type of systems that they're in, most of the systems in place are collapsing, honestly, and they're just basically printing money out of thin air. Most of the systems in place, so then obviously that's going to go down over time. But the difference is a real asset should go up in value in general, and it's like gold and silver. A real asset, if you own gold, you own silver. If you just own numbers in a computer or whatever, supposedly deposited somewhere, I don't put any stock in that as being real. But anyway, you definitely, I agree with you. Definitely got to come up with a system that rewards the people, gives the people back, give the people the assets as much as possible, and then reward those that are productive in a bigger way. The more productive they are, the more reward, and that's going to be huge. I think more countries are going to be starting to think this way also, and so hopefully Fiji is one of them. Is there any production at all going on in Fiji? Any mass production?
Water. Fiji water. They
produce water, yeah.
Okay. So that's a famous brand around the world, right? Now I know there's been some let's say general skepticism as to how this company is functioning because there's some attention drawn to it by that unnamed letter group. Those guys over there, they have pointed out some things about Fiji. Trump has had an interesting little excerpt where he took the Fiji water bottle and he held it with two hands and kind of poured it, kind of into his mouth in a very odd way. So he was kind of really drawing attention to the Fiji water and the human trafficking, conversation that was going on in the those guys group, the 17th letter group, were in making some implications. So I don't know what's going to happen, as that rolls out, as there's a changeover in Fiji to something that is more about the people, and it may be there's nothing to that, but maybe there is something to that. But anyway, I'm sure Fiji has a good tourism industry. I don't know what else is, for what's in Fiji. I don't know about other resources, in-ground resources. There might be gold, other things like that. So I know that the current cabal system, and when they're trying to do this reset, which we used to call global currency reset, now they're calling it the big reset, openly, by the World Economic Forum, the Big Reset, saying the pandemic is the reason that they're going to do this now, and let's take advantage of this pandemic. So they're talking about using in-ground resources and having countries sign those over, right, to register, right, to sign over as to be part of the new system, right. So it's again all about this parasitic system, instead of allowing the countries themselves to stand with their own value, with their people and their resources, and being valued as it is. They want to, again, throw it all up to the people on the top of the pyramid.
Yeah, it's interesting. I Googled economy of Fiji while we're talking, and it does say there's a move there to become self-sufficient, and a lot of people are doing subsistence agriculture, which basically means that they are growing their own food to some extent. And I see that here in the Philippines as well. A lot of people are raising chickens and hogs and farming some land and so on. And so it's good to see that. It's good to see people going self-sufficient. And it doesn't say if they're anywhere near self-sufficient, but it does say that that's a goal that they have. So we'll see. But again, that's my opinion. That's everybody should be self-sufficient. Every family as much as possible, every community as much as possible, and every area of the world, every state, every country. And then you eliminate the need for war with, not just self-sufficiency with food, but self-sufficiency with energy, self-sufficiency with, every kind of thing. And also the teleportation, public teleportation. Everybody can just, push a button and go where they want to go. Push a couple buttons, go where they want to go. And that's totally doable. It's been developed. By the way, wormholes were developed in the late 1800s. Keeley and Tesla both worked on them.
Some more famous evidence is the Philadelphia experiment, and they used Tesla's technology to hide a battleship, right? And that battleship disappeared. But where did it go? Another dimension, perhaps, or.
Ron Brandt was on that project, and believe it or not, Tesla, as a very old man, was on that project before what happened the first 6 months or so. Tesla worked on it maybe a year. He originally had an agreement with the government that there would be no nuclear or no radioactive materials used on the ship, anywhere on the ship. And the government started imposing things, including the use of radioactive materials, which, Tesla was chief scientist, so he just resigned. He just refused to work on it any longer and went home. He was a very old man at that time. But Ron Brandt was under orders. He was a very young man, and he was under orders to continue the project. And they brought in other scientists and so on. And they understood enough about what Tesla was doing. And that project, that ship disappeared, like you said, popped around, reappeared in different places. The story is different times, but I don't know if that part's true or not, but definitely different plaplaces.
Yeah, I've heard that there were actually people that reappeared much later, like decades later, and they showed up, and they were still young as when they disappeared.
Yeah, they went forward in time. That's the story. I haven't substantiated that part of it, but I have. Ron Brandt was there. He was actually assigned to be on the ship, but he was told by Tesla, do not be on the ship if they test it. He said if they succeed in getting it ready and there's nuclear material on board the ship, he said it's going to cause probably the death to everybody. It could be worst case scenario, everybody dies.
The problem was that so that was the problem. They included nuclear material on board, and that kind of just messed up things.
You do not use nuclear material when you're doing teleportation. You do not want. Again, the goal was invisibility, optical invisibility, and radar invisibility, but the technology is similar to teleportation technology, let's say it that way. It can easily get out of control, let's say it that way, if there's nuclear material involved. And that's the military. I think they wanted a failed experiment, honestly, or they wanted to see what would happen if nuclear material was involved. Anyway, they had nuclear material on the ship.
Well, you could see why they would want.
It's like Fukushima.
You can see why the military would want that, right? They would want to hide a ship that had nuclear material or nuclear bombs on it, so that they could, stealthily move it into position and then no one know it. So.
So like that. And anyway, Telsla told Ron. He said, "I know you're under orders. You're still enlisted. You've got to finish." Telsla was not enlisted. He was basically a contractor or scientific advisor. But so he went home back to New York and from Philadelphia, and Ron Brandt was required to continue work on that ship. And within a few months, I don't remember, a month or a year or whatever, they did test it, and Ron pretended to be sick that day, and so he didn't go, but he watched it from land, let's say it that way, and he saw that thing disappear. First it was covered with like lightning, it's like energy just covered everything, and then the whole thing disappeared. And at first there was an imprint in the water where the ship, but then even that disappeared. And 20 minutes later or so, I forget exactly what he said, a certain time period later, the thing reappeared. And people were fused right into the ship. People were dying. Apparently, some people had jumped overside. Other people had somebody grabbed an axe and chopped up some of the equipment, and that made it go backwards, like a slingshot effect. It sucked backwards from wherever it originally originated back to Philadelphia. But yeah, that ship was seen in a couple different places, and in other words, it bounced around in time and space. I don't know how much in time, but mainly in space. And eventually came back right where it started. But Ron told me that everybody died. It was on that ship within 3 years. Everybody died. A lot of them were just crazy, mentally. The ones I think 50% were dead within an hour, 2 hours, something like that. So it was quite a disaster. But it does show that we've had wormhole technology for a long time. And obviously, there are safe ways to do it and wrong ways to do it.
Yeah, well, obviously they did the wrong way. So let's maybe talk about a little bit more about maybe your ministry and Witts Ministry, about the people that originally were and how Telsla was part of it. I'm interested to know more about that.
Yeah, basically, Michael Faraday, Minister of Science and Engineering, he's the first one, and then he handed it off. I forget the guy's name; it's been too long. But Maxwell was involved with the ministry. I don't think he was ever a spokesman, but he was definitely one of our elders, and he did, of course, a lot of theoretical writing.
Right.
Faraday's the one that brought modern science, in my opinion. Galileo did some great things too. Newton, all that stuff is useless, in my opinion. Totally useless, almost totally useless. The theory of gravitation, the formula is a little bit useful, but other than that, I think that's baloney. The rest, all those complicated formulas, which I used to teach complicated formulas. I taught higher mathematics at a university in Alaska called Central School of Science and Technology. I taught mathematics and physics for 2 years, and when I was as a young man, I was in love with these formulas and how they could prove anything.
Right.
But then, as I kept working in science over the years, I realized that the formulas are mostly useless in reality. Much better off to just trial and error and seek the Lord, honestly, and see what His leading is, and then trial and error to get the details worked out. That's a much better way to do science and technology and improvements. But anyway, so Telsla was Stubblefield was before Telsla, and Nathan Stubblefield, he was the spokesman before Telsla. And when he got older in years, he was looking for someone else to train, take the lead. And the ministry's always been around for 200 years, since 1811. And so we've always had maybe a half a dozen to a dozen elders, as much as 15 elders at any given time. And anyway, but there's always one spokesman, which he's the one that's out in front and promoting, whatever the ministry's offering, which is basically solutions to all the world's problems. So, Telsla was promoting those solutions when he was spokesman. He became spokesman somewhere around the year 1890s, somewhere in the 1890s, he became spokesman. or spokesman in training. Usually you're in training for 10 years or so before you actually become spokesman. So somewhere in the 1890s, which is about the time he arrived.
Are you the spokesman right now?
What's that?
Are you the spokesman right now?
Yeah, I'm the seventh spokesman. So anyway, basically the spokesman job is to promote the solutions and implement them as much as possible worldwide. And so we have worked with governments, quite a few governments, including China and Japan. And actually there's a huge free energy, multiple huge free energy generating plants in China and Japan. There's some here in the Philippines, quite a few here in the Philippines, but the ones here run on geothermal, whereas the ones in Japan that we built, we designed and built in China, those are running on free energy. They often refer to it as nuclear, but again, we don't use nuclear material for the most part. Very little. If we do, it's going to be alpha or beta emitters, and that's it. We're not going to use any gamma emitters. Gamma is one that causes too much disturbance in the ether and problems. Anytime you use gamma, you're asking for problems. All these problems have to be solved, and there's no point in creating extra problems. But anyway. So Tesla promoted the solutions, which wireless power was a great solution to people getting electricity, because at that time, most of the world was still, burning fires and burning oil lamps. And, oil came from whales and certain plants, and the whales were being overfished and overfarmed, or whatever you want to call it, overhunted. I guess fishing is maybe the right word, whatever. That industry eventually died out, but replaced by fossil fuels. Fossil fuels really didn't get popular. They were around even 200 or 300 years ago, but they really didn't get popular until the early 1900s, which was when Tesla was the spokesman. But fossil fuels, we all know the drawbacks of fossil fuels, and it's not the cleanest. In other words, you can easily have a beautiful country polluted from the air, and you hardly breathe in some cities now. I mean, mainly because of fossil fuels. And thanks to free energy, these things are going the other way. Clean systems. So, again, they're calling it new nuclear most of the time. You can probably find the one in northern Japan still if you do a Google search. It produces billions of watts. I forget the exact number now. The one in Japan was in the late 80s. We did that project. So that's almost 40 years ago now. We did that project. Not 40, let's say 20, 80, so 30 years ago, roughly 32 years ago, something like that, 31 years ago. That was somewhere in there. Might have been the 90s even. I don't remember exactly. But anyway, there are a lot of these in China and in the United States as well. The secret cities are all running on free energy for the most part, and there's a lot more secret cities being built. A lot more than people realize.
So are all of these secret cities built underground?
No, but almost all of them have an underground presence. There's many that have a very nice above ground presence, but most of the time they're camouflaged. In other words, from satellite, even if you owned your own satellite, you wouldn't see them. They're camouflaged to match the surroundings. And in the early days of Google Earth, Google Maps, whatever, you can look down and you'd see people, and you'd see their bald head walking across the street. You'd say, that's so and so. I recognize his house, and I recognize his bald head. And now, in those early days, there were also quite a few flying saucers caught on Google. And now they've cleaned it all up. I don't think you can find that on Google Maps anymore, Google Earth. Yeah. But you can zoom down and see flying saucers all over the place. That's how they're traveling for the most part in the secret cities. But they do use the wormhole technology also to travel from one secret city to the other. And so they've had free energy technology since the first secret cities were done in the 1890s. The ministry was hired by a very wealthy group, businessmen, and later became basically what they are, the modern bankers, pretty much. And we didn't know, at that time they weren't all that corrupt as they are now. And they weren't as bad. I'd say they are the dark side, and unfortunately, we empowered them by giving them good technology. And they did form the earliest secret cities back in the 1890s. Possibly even 1880s, they already had secret cities being formed, but they didn't have as much great technology. And actually, the history of the ministry working for these people goes back even further. In 1830s, we built the first submarine, and it was powered 100% on water as fuel. And we built that, designed it and built it and so on. And that was the actual ship was called the Nautilus, which is the same as 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That book was written as a hide in plain sight type book, and which a lot of them were. If you check that Titanic, you'll see there was a book written 10 years before that was sunk called the Titan, and so on. So there's a lot of this stuff. The Twin Towers was in Bruce Willis' film, or the robbing of the Twin Towers, let's say it that way, the gold. So a lot of this stuff is hidden in plain sight, and that's how the dark side. One of the ways the dark side likes to operate. They have a sort of a code that they have to go by. They have to tell people what they're up to before they do it. And so anyway, there was a real submarine that went around and it sank ships, and it was in the 1830s before the submarine was officially invented. I think the submarine was officially invented in the 1870s, but it functioned quite well, and there were quite a few ships that were sunk. And the idea of sinking ships, we didn't know they were going to use it for sinking ships, obviously. Which again, it's not the person that makes the invents. Like the guy who invented the hammer, it's not his fault that somebody might use that hammer to hit their neighbor in the head with it.
Yeah.
The hammer's invented to drive nails. Same thing with transportation. The machine's invented for transport, not invented to go out and sink ships and steal all the gold that they might be transporting on the ship. But that's what they used the early submarine for, unfortunately. And other things like that. There's been quite a few true stories that I can tell you that people stealing from people, basically. Rich stealing from rich, but a lot of crazy stuff going on down through the past 200 years. The 1830s. So the ministry started in 1811, but 1830s was the first submarine, somewhere right in there. It launched, give or take 10 years from the 1830s, and quite capable submarine as well, and free energy as well. Well, water, you can't burn water, which, by the way, we are offering, setting up dealership manufacturing for water-powered engines and generators right now. So just if you're interested, send an email. Witts 2014 is the email address, but you can just find it also on the Contact Us page on our website.
Okay.
We do want to see people mass producing as much as possible the water-powered generators, and there is a minimum donation, of course, to get you started, but we are setting them up right now. So that's one of the things we do want to do the Witts coin, and but the other one is the water-powered generator. So we're focusing. It's good to stay focused on things. So if you get too scattered, it's more harder for people to participate and help. So it's some people don't have any trouble. I don't have any trouble with 20 different things of engineering in my head, but if it's 20 different things with computer software, that even one of them confuses me. But engineering actual hands-on machines, I have no trouble. I can do 20 of them at the same time, no problem. But anyway, it's good to stay focused for people, and the water-powered generators is very focused. 10 kW is what we're focusing in on, and we want to set up as many people as possible mass-producing these, because I do expect there'll be more turbulent times ahead. I hope not, pray not, but I do expect there will be, and so the water-powered, 100% water-powered, or water-fueled, if you want to say it that way, no other fuel needed generator is very important going forward, that people have some sort of power system when the grids go down, which if there's war, they always go down. And I'm actually expecting the grid to fail in the United States and Europe, both within the next year, 2 years like that, and probably won't be back. So people will have to go to some other system.
We see that like California right now is having rolling blackouts, and there's the last governor that had rolling blackouts, Gray Davis, was removed by way of a recall by the people. And right now, Governor Newsom is now experiencing exactly the same thing. They've already gathered enough signatures to basically put it on the ballot to recall Newsom, just like they did Davis. So it's interesting,
Recall all the politicians, in my opinion, all of them should be fired, and only people that really want to volunteer and work for free and can work for free, and people that have children and grandchildren, those type of people should be the ones that work in government. And it should be 100%. People do it at their own expense to help the world, and then things would get done fast, and they would be at least 100% effort to get it done where it benefits everybody, rather than all the corruption that we got now. It's all about making people putting money in their pocket. It's all about corruption. It's all about
it's
for more money, basically, is what's going on. But volunteer governments would be huge, and that's what Witts is. We're all every one of our elders is 100% volunteer. None of them get paid anything. And that's the way it should be.
You seem to be breaking up a little bit.
Yeah. How about now? Is it sound a little better?
So I think so. So we could keep going. Okay. Give it a try.
Well, I'm just saying, governments, the right way to run governments is 100% volunteer. Nobody gets paid anything.
Well, one of the things that we see though is
I've heard that Trump is working without pay. You get people that would volunteer just to want to help. Also.
I'm sorry. My dog is barking. There's nothing I can do, and he decides he's going to give a bark. So I didn't actually hear what you said.
Yeah, I said the best way to run governments is 100% volunteer, and Witts is like that. World Improvement Through the Spirit Ministries, our organization. All of us tithe to work here, including myself. All of us are regular tithes. The funds go to World Improvement projects, all funds that we get in, and all government should be the same way. It should be everybody works for free, and I've heard that Trump works for free, so I think that's good. Everybody should work. Help the world. I say for free. You work for treasures in heaven. I
think part of the problem is certain people that can't work for free, right? So then should they be paid, or maybe they shouldn't be running because they're not capable of being there. So it's a requirement, right?
If they're not capable, they shouldn't be running. Yeah, absolutely. They should not be running if they're not capable. Well, in other words, they don't financially able to take a year off from their other work and focus on their whatever time that they're volunteering for. If they're not able to volunteer for that, they can volunteer for it. But people, it's very simple, honestly. If you don't have the time to put into it, but we would find that most government is much, much easier to run than the government is pretending. And we could also find that you really don't need all these people that you think you need. If you go into any government office, 99.9% of those people are totally unnecessary to get the job done.
Yeah, well, I think that we're seeing a part of the cleanup, the draining of the swamp, is also cleaning up the corruption. And I think some of all the regulations that they've put in place are just places where people's fingers get into the pie, right? It's part of the corruption. Right. Not necessary for them to be in the middle. The middlemen that Trump has just pointed to in the pharmaceutical industry that were taking so much of the money that the cost of medicine in America was, 30, 40 times what it was in other countries, because the middlemen had their fingers in there. There's no need for there to be middlemen in these kind of things. So obviously this is just a place where there was kickbacks coming back into the politicians' hands through these middlemen. And this cleanup is happening. So I think we see that Trump not taking a salary, but they're all requesting his tax returns. And the IRS has been reviewing them and having them under audit for all this time. I think he's just set a trap for them to say, okay, well, you want my tax return, you're going to have to make a law that says, everyone needs to put their tax return open if you're running for public office, and not just that, your families. Your direct family needs to be exposed as well as to their taxes. So trying to do a cleanup.
Personally, the government doesn't need taxes. They're plenty powerful enough. They should be given. They shouldn't be involved in money. Honestly, any of them. Honestly, no government agent should be involved with money. If they get caught being involved with money, they should be. They should have a capital punishment, in my opinion, or serious punishment. Governments don't need money, honestly, in my opinion. The people should be the backbone of the country, which that's the way the United States was set up. There's other countries like that. They were set up that way, where the people were the backbone. And people existed without money for years, for decades. And that's the way it should be. People should be able to exist without money. The system is structured wrong on purpose, but there's no reason it can't be restructured back to where, back to agricultural type society. And, people are self-sufficient as a family and then as a community and as a country, as a world, basically.
Yeah. So, there's a lot to do to reorganize government. I think that this is underway, but doesn't end with this election cycle. This is really just getting set up for where there's some real deep changes to take place after this election cycle, and power rolls over into the Republican hands at that point. Even in the House, I would say would happen, and that way. Whether all these 180,000 sealed indictments that are sitting there waiting to be unsealed, what's going to happen with that? So many changes happening, but let's wrap it back around to what Tesla is doing in his plan. I know you had talked with your oldest member to verify that this is part of the plan. This time. So, is there any more details about that? And when you start speaking about this particular time,
Yes. Well, the financial part, the Witts going to be part of that. But yes, we want to get the technology out to the people as smooth of a transition as possible. And again, part of it is the water-powered generators is one thing to focus in on. So anybody out there that wants to mass produce, get a hold of us. Wants to produce, and send us an email. And of course, you can listen to our last few programs. You'll hear more about it. Everybody's welcome. Worldwide, this is a great plan to help the world, honestly. And energy is one of the things to focus in on, but the next ones will be anti-gravity, transportation. Food growing is very important, and water is very important in many parts of the world. So these are exciting things and exciting times, and the solutions are all fantastic and exciting. And so, if anybody, if you have any skills, especially internet skills, anybody out there listening, you want to help with the ministry, again, we're 100% voluntary. Nobody gets paid anything. 100% of donations go to feed the children, feed the elderly, take care of people, and better systems, better technologies to implement them worldwide. But if anybody out there feels led of the Lord, we ask everybody to pray about it. And if you feel led of the Lord to volunteer, or if you want to become a manufacturer, any of that kind of stuff, let us know. We're happy to have more people on the team. Part of the main objective is to get people on the team, and it's great. Everybody's welcome. As long as people, I should qualify that. As long as people believe in doing good, kind of like the golden rule, do unto others, you'd have them do unto you. As long as you believe in that, then you're on our team. As long as you believe in helping the world, you're on the team. And others come, before self. That's important. Service to others rather than service to self. That's pretty important. Not that you ignore yourself. I mean, obviously, each person has a need. But Jesus said it this way: love your neighbor as yourself. And so that's really a good way to say it. And he said, do unto others as you want them to do to you. And so that's both of those are very good ways to say it. And that would qualify people that want to volunteer. like you say, the more the better. The more people want to help with this and see this, and everyone could be wealthy too. Everyone that participates. Again, if the government doesn't, it depends on the dark side persecution. Obviously, I want to say that it's all a cakewalk, because it's not. There's a dark side persecution that doesn't like solutions implemented. They want all these problems. They're the ones that engineered these problems. But again, everyone could be wealthy if when we succeed. Let's not say if we succeed. Let's say when we succeed, because we are succeeding. I do see light at the end of the tunnel. I do see maybe, like I say, 5 years off, 10 years off, that prosperity will become the norm on this planet. I do see that, again, but it's going to take people that are skilled and love each other, work hard together, make that happen. And so we're making that call. Anybody that feels led of the Lord to get in touch with us, and especially if you have skills. If you don't have any skills, I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure what you can volunteer for. But again, it's good to have people on the team that want to help.
Well, there's always something that someone can do that, in the marketing campaigns and moving videos. There's so many things that you can volunteer to do. So let me ask you another question about products. I mean, what products have you been producing for people? We've talked about some of these things in the past. I just thought maybe a good idea to talk about them, so people know the things that you've been involved with creating.
Yeah, we don't call them products, we call them gifts, but basically we've been teaching people how to do any of these technologies, and a lot of the great technologies that you hear about, new batteries that, there's batteries that never need charged, honestly. There's one in a museum that we built in the 1870s, 1860s, 1870s, I think it's 1870s. It's still running, it's still ringing a bell. They got it behind a glass case. You can Google it on YouTube, and you'll see it. It's in a museum in the United States, and we built it in the 1870s, 1880s, still full power, basically. Batteries don't need to be charged and don't need to wear out. That's all phony baloney. We teach all this stuff. If you go to again, every page of our website is free classes on advanced technologies. So we've got probably over 20,000 free classes, no exaggeration. But then there's one page of classes that have a donation, and that's called the Legacy Gifts page. I'm not sure, but it sounds like the echo is coming back. I'm not sure why. Are you hearing me okay?
I hear you fine. I don't hear an echo.
Okay, I'm hearing it, but it's okay. If as long as you're not hearing it. But anyway, Legacy Gifts page is the one page, and those gifts, I'll just name off a few. There's you can get your own flying saucer there on the gifts page. You can get your own, and you never need to put fuel in your flying saucer, by the way. You can get water-powered generators. You can get the QUEET was probably the device we've mass-produced the most of. It's called a QUEET, short for Quantum Energy Enhancement Technology. That's $70, I think, is the donation amount, minimum donation amount. And that one, we've probably given away over 10 million of those worldwide. And it's eventful. And it's basically what it does is you can put it on a battery. All batteries will become more efficient. Some batteries become unbelievably efficient, so much so that you can charge them in a few seconds, 1 or 2 seconds. You can full charge on your cell phone battery. Not all cell phone batteries will do that. It depends on the battery. But almost all batteries become more efficient. I'll say it. Maybe I better say like 95% of all batteries become more efficient. And you can also put it on any electrical device and it'll become more efficient. And if you put it on your body, a lot of people use them for healing, getting rid of pain. They do work that way as well. Basically, they make your body energy flow. Whenever there's pain, the energy is not flowing very good, usually from a acid condition in the body. And so they do help with cancer and so on. And we have other technologies that help get rid of cancer as well. So there's a lot of great technologies there. Does that answer your question? Or?
Yeah, no, that's good. No, I just to give someone some ideas of what you've been producing, but I did not know that you don't need to refuel your flying saucer. That's also good information.
Yeah, no, things break down, things need maintenance, but they don't need to be refueled. The fuel is obsolete it has been for about 120 years. It depends on what you want to talk about as fuel. If you're talking about water as fuel, we were doing that in the 1830s, which is 150 years ago. 1830s, I don't know, it's almost 190 years ago. 190 years ago, we were doing water for fuel, 100% water. So, fuel was obsolete 190 years ago. But as far as quantum energy, that was obsolete in the 1870s. Stubblefield had a number of different devices, including he patented batteries. He was our third spokesman. He patented batteries that are still working today, and I've seen them, and I've dug them up and done maintenance on them. Those were the kind that you bury in the ground. And so that's about 140 years, still behind, 150 years. Nathan Stubblefield was building 300 devices. Of course, the batteries that are in the museum, those are not the kind you bury. The kind you bury are called earth batteries. The kind that's portable is what's in the museum. That was also done in the 1870s. And literally, pretty much full power. Here it is 150 years later. Full power. The batteries don't need to be built when they wear out. That's a total scam. All batteries, total scam. In my opinion.
So basically, the idea of fuel, the replacing fuel and everything, it's just, again, about consumption, about creating this flow of money into the hands of the people at the top of the pyramid. So
even in my own life, when I was a kid, there was a car battery you could buy. You could put it on your car, disconnect your high voltage wire, ignition wire, I guess they call it. But anyway, disconnect the high voltage distributor, put this battery on your car, and you can crank that car for 30 minutes. 30 minutes, it crank. I mean, it would burn up your starter, unless you have a Toyota or something. You have to have the right kind of car. But you can literally crank it for 30 minutes, and before it wouldn't turn over anymore. And then you go in the house and have a cup of coffee or something, come back out, he'd crank for another 25 minutes. It's self-charge. That was just in my lifetime when I was a kid. You can't get anything like that anymore. Not even close. Yeah. And what the old guys tell them, we've got one guy that's almost 100 years old now. He was the one that actually met Tesla when he was a kid. And he's been with the ministry pretty much his whole life. He told me that they had even better batteries when he was a kid. And he described it for him. And of course, I've seen ones in the museums. I've seen ones we dug up ground that Stubblefield did. Yeah, so everything we've got, the generators, the batteries, all of them are made. They're made poorly and purpose. They always promote like lithium ion was the best thing ever. It was the worst thing ever. Those things would blow up sitting on the shelf. I know because I've tested them. It's unbelievable. But so they keep saying, this is the best thing ever. This is the best thing. People really, it's the worst thing ever. They're going backwards.
Yeah, people don't realize how dangerous these lithium-ion batteries really are. Just a little puncture into the air getting into them will cause them to explode. So when they overheat and they expand, anything can happen.
Yeah, I've seen it happen just sitting on the shelf. Anyway, great visiting with you, man. It's been over an hour. What do you think?
Oh yeah, no, we're good. It's been an hour and a half. So we're good. We're good to go. And I think, I want to thank you for coming on. And I think we've got a lot to do. So please, if anyone's interested in helping out with the ministry, again, the website was witts.ws. And you'll find there's under contact us, there's a place to email them. Thank you for coming on, and we will, I'm sure, have another broadcast coming up soon enough, and then maybe we'll talk with Tui together, and we can organize, have all three of us on at the same time, and maybe you can get Zoom running.
Maybe we'll get Zoom. Yeah. All right. Well, it's my privilege, my honor to be here, brother, and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you too, him. And okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we'll be here again tomorrow, and we'll go back to some of our other regular scheduled programming. Talking about the day in, day out, what's happening in the world, and seeing how we can stay on the front lines and make a change for the positive. And we'll see you tomorrow. And don't forget, we are donation-based as well as the Witts Ministries donation-based. So please, my PayPal link is down below. So feel free to contact me if you want to use another way of making donations. And then we will also, I think, be having a separate meeting just with Tui coming on. I would talk with him about that, about the things that we were discussing about how do we create a new economic system, kind of as we were discussing here earlier today. So until tomorrow, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.